Hey, welcome to another episode of the Advance Team. I'm Lance Dutson. Let's meet our panel this week. We've got former head of the Maine Democrat Party and powerhouse labor attorney, Ben Grant. We've got CEO of the Maine Heritage Policy Center and conservative activist, Matt Gagnon. And we've got Democrat communications machine, Lizzy Reinholt. Thanks for joining us today, guys. We're going to jump right into the big story today. Emily Cain has once again announced that she's going to be running for Congress in Maine's 2nd District. So it's going to be a Cain versus Poliquin rematch unless there's some kind of primary. Matt Gagnon, what do you think of this? Emily Cain back in the race already. What are we, like 2 years out now or something? What do you think of this?
2 years out and 4 months after the last race, which is sort of my problem with this. I think what she's ultimately doing here is she's attempting to scare out any potential primary challengers, A, and B, make sure that she raises enough financial resources to be able to compete with Poliquin, who is on the Financial Services Committee. He's an incumbent. I mean, this is a tall financial order, so she needs to get started early. All that said, though, I have a pretty big problem with the campaign strategy behind it. I mean, there were a number of weaknesses that she had as a candidate. The whole quote-unquote never had a job issue, the sort of out of alignment ideologically with the district, and so on and so forth, which she simply did not solve in the last couple months. And I think she could have. I mean, I think she probably, to me, if I was Emily Cain, what I would have done is I probably would have sort of disappeared for like a year or two and tried to work on those things that were my greatest weaknesses, and then come back when Bruce inevitably runs for governor or senator or whatever it is he does next, and then run for that seat. I don't think that the intervening 4 months really provided her an opportunity to do that kind of thing, but obviously she's convinced herself that it's a good idea, so I suppose we'll see.
Lizzy, what do you think of this? Emily Cain, is she gonna win the rematch here?
I think that starting off early is a good idea for her. I think she'll be able to spend a significant amount of time raising money and also hopefully establish herself as the Democratic candidate and really make it so she can focus on a general election rather than a competitive primary. Obviously, it's a presidential year. It's a different year. Turnout tends to be different, so we'll see how it turns out. Obviously, other things are going to be on the ballot this year too, in 2016 too, that could also have an impact just the way they did in 2014.
Ben Grant, what do you think of this? I mean, first of all, do you think Emily gets through this? Do you think she'll be able to freeze out potential primary opponents, or do you think she's going to face a full field?
If I had to guess now, I'd say she probably clears the field given her record fundraising, and that she ran a pretty respectable and strong campaign last time around, and that everyone knows this is a different electorate that's going to be facing her in 2016. Maine has seen the Democratic presidential bump many cycles in a row now. I think we can expect that again. I think there's also something to be said for being honest about your intentions. She's not going to go on some sort of kind of faux listening tour. She's going to run again, so why not come right out and say it and start doing it so people know what you're up to. I don't have a problem with the tactic whatsoever.
So, Matt, you had mentioned campaign strategy before that you didn't agree with it, and I wanted a couple observations that I saw. Well, first of all, today she launched, and she had kind of a perfunctory website up there with kind of a crappy pixelated picture up there.
It really was not a good thing.
As kind of a couple web guys, that stuff drives me crazy. Yeah. Like, you're running for Congress. But the thing that I think I have a problem with Emily, I think she needs to fix right away is, look, candidates need to be able to answer the question, why are you running for office?
Exactly.
Why do you want to unseat Bruce Poliquin? I mean, Bruce is a passionate guy with a solid message. Do you think Emily, first of all, how do you think she did clarifying or answering that question last time around, and do you think she'll be able to come up with a compelling reason to knock Bruce out this time?
Yeah, see, that's where, I disagree a little bit with Ben about the quality of the campaign she ran. I mean, I guess, let me look at it this way. I was talking with Lance before we started the show today, and we were sort of joking around that every time anybody talks about Emily Cain, they always begin the sentence with, man, she's a really great person, I really like her, she's fantastic, really smart, etc. But, that but at the end is where they start talking about how she doesn't match the district, or she didn't really run a good campaign, or what have you. And to me, she had an ideological problem, and she had a campaign structure problem. I mean, she burned through an awful lot of money, especially on DC consultants, whereas Bruce's, for once, out of his first 3 campaigns here, for once, he ran a very lean campaign and spent most of his money on TV and in field staff and things like that. And beyond that, the argument, the rhetorical argument for why she wants to run, I don't see there. Her announcement was sort of muddy. I can't really even respond with what she said, frankly.
Did you have a press conference today?
She didn't have a press conference, but she released a statement. She had the email that she sent out, and I'm not sure that your opening round, if you're sort of trying to ideologically match your district, is a labor union email to folks starting out brothers and sisters in labor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, of course. I'm sorry?
I mean, she didn't send that to everyone. I think that went to supporters of hers from her last campaign who were from the labor movement. I got an email that was directly to me that didn't say brothers and sisters. So, I think she's being smart with her message and targeting different folks. And I think that, on top of that, she wanted to start early, and hopefully this starting early is an opportunity for her to travel throughout that state, this district, and really talk to voters and get them to get to know her. Because when you know Emily Cain, she shares your values. But I think that there's an opportunity here for her to make sure that she is able to connect with those voters and really talk to them. Because really, both Bruce Poliquin and Emily Cain in the last race didn't really have the greatest name recognition to start out. I think that there's a lot of room for them both to grow, and there's no doubt that her starting early is also a fact that she's going to be running against an incumbent who has a platform and has a bully pulpit to be able to stand on.
Ben Grant, we've talked a lot over the weeks about the Democrat Party and kind of how they're trying to get their act together after getting whooped in this last election. And
you mean the Democratic Party, right?
What's that?
The Democratic Party?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I make that mistake totally accidentally.
Funny, all the Republicans do. It's weird. It's almost intentional. It's crazy.
So, but is Emily Cain the candidate? I mean, as the first solid high-profile candidate of this next cycle, I guess, is Emily Cain the kind of candidate that Democrats need to rally around? I mean, she strikes me as having made a pretty big effort to be centrist in her campaign. She took credit for the largest tax cut and negotiating the largest tax cut in Maine history. Are we seeing a moderation of the high-profile Democrat candidates as a preview for this cycle?
Well, I don't know that her message today was, you can place it on the political spectrum somewhere. I don't think she started out as a moderate or otherwise. I think what's going to be true is what was said before, that she's going to be running against an incumbent. And whatever she starts out saying today, she's clearly going to have 2 years of a Poliquin voting record to run against. There's certainly an open question of what, if anything, she needs to change. I think that's the question she's probably trying to answer right now. This is a different electorate. We can't just assume it'll be the same race and the same voters, because we know it won't be. So that, to me, is the big question. What needs to change? And that's a type of research I'm sure she's doing right now.
Yeah, my last comment on this is you usually do that research before you start a race, don't you? I mean, like that strikes me is that she's started a race, and maybe the issue is she was scared that some other Democrat was ready to jump in, so she had to pull the trigger quick. But I'm just and most people I've talked to are pretty surprised about the timing of this. Okay, we're going to move on to a new little feature here that we're going to do on the advanced team, wins and fails of the week. So we're going to run down and give our rating of who did well and who did poorly this past week. Lizzy, I'm going to start with you. We'll go ahead and start with the wins of the week. Who's your win of this last week in Maine politics?
Attorney General Janet Mills, absolutely. Do you want the reason?
Yeah, I want the reason, definitely.
So far, Janet is really, from what I've seen, the only one who's really willing to stand up to the governor, and when he goes after her, even if it's completely unjustified, she doesn't cave, she doesn't back down. She's very rational and calm and goes about doing her job and doing her business. And I think she continually keeps matching him when it comes to these senseless attacks he keeps unleashing on her. So to me, Janet Mills has been a great leader. She's been doing great things for the state, and I think that if she had it her way, she wouldn't be having all these fights with the governor. She'd be actually working with him, but he doesn't seem to want to do that.
You think this is raises her profile enough for her to run for something after being Attorney General?
Hey, I've never been shy about how much I'd love to see Janet Mills run for something other than Attorney General.
All right, Matt Gagnon, who's your win of the week?
My win of the week goes to Troy Jackson, Senator Troy Jackson. There was a piece in the Portland Press-Herald from Ethan Strimling this week which sort of highlighted a story about Troy that had sort of his reaction to the primary he ran and his reaction to sort of partisan politics broadly. And turns out that briefly he was considering leaving the Democratic Party. He didn't think that it reflected his values anymore, and didn't think that what he believed in really matched well with what primary voters or leadership, that's my phone ringing again, really thought about things. And at the end of the piece, Ethan said that he talked to him a couple times, and at the end, Troy decided to stay in the party and try to work from within to fix it and do what he wanted to see done inside the party. So he's, of course, taken a leadership role there. And whether or not he becomes a candidate who opposes Emily Cain or not, or whether he has his eyes on something else, we'll see, I suppose. But I think he had a pretty decent week.
All right, Ben Grant, who's your win of the week?
I'm going to turn my gaze toward Washington for this one. I think the win of the week was Harry Reid. The Department of Homeland Security funding bill and how the Republicans tried to tie it to the immigration issue totally fell apart. And I think that you can draw a line directly to Harry Reid's office and how they're able to control the bill in the Senate. So I'm going to give Harry Reid my win of the week. And I'm happy to see 3 straight Democrats get the win.
Well, here's another one. I'm going to actually go along with Matt on this. I'm going to give Troy Jackson the win of the week too, not because of anything that happened, but just because of whoever his writers are, if he's writing himself. Ethan's piece that Matt referred to had a chunk of his speech, I guess, for DNC committeeman. And it's eloquent, just like his speech was at the convention last time around. But listen to this line. We will build our party, we will build our coalition, and we will open a ladder of opportunity to all. Like a bull moose that charges forward because of what it knows its true nature to be, so will we. I think that's some great political rhetoric there. All right, let's go to the fun stuff, the fails of the week. Lizzy, let's start with you. Who's the biggest failure in Maine politics this week?
The Humane Society of the United States. They're talking about already doing another referendum on the bear hunting. Look, I think Maine people were pretty clear. They were clear in 2004. They were clear in 2014. I think it's a senseless referendum. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a waste of money. I think it's a complete, demonstration of how little they understand Maine and Maine culture. And I think it's a bunch of people coming in and trying to push a referendum from out of state that don't really know anything about this state and about how we manage our wildlife population. So I think they're major losers of the week.
All right, right on. I agree with that. Matt, how about you?
I think I'll give the fail of the week to President Obama for this Benjamin Netanyahu speech nonsense. I think, it's pretty clear at the end of the day that it was a speech in front of a bunch of people and not much beyond that. And the sort of hissy fit that he and the sort of Democratic Party brain trust through with almost 50 people, I think it was, that protested the speech and didn't go. Just looks small and petty and childish, and I think it's ridiculous. And if you watch the speech, I thought it was a pretty decent speech. It didn't really break a lot of ground, and there was nothing really to be afraid of by having him stand up in front of Congress. So my fail goes to the president. Yeah,
among one of those 50 is our very own first district Congresswoman Shelley Pingree. So, all right, Ben, who's your fail of the week?
I'm going to go back to the same issue. I'm going to go with Speaker Boehner back down in Washington. I think he saw that he can't legislate his way out of a paper bag, and that for all the effort that the D.C. Republicans want to oppose the president, they can't get out of their own way, and I just don't see how they're going to have a successful couple of years.
Okay, so my fail of the week is a name that some of us might be familiar with, or political insiders, a guy named Tyler Harbor. Tyler Harbor was Congressman Poliquin's chief political consigliere in his losing campaigns. And I was actually going to use Bruce possibly as the win of the week, too, because the best decision he apparently ever made was getting rid of Tyler Harbor before he ran for Congress. Tyler Harbor is now facing jail time, from what I understand, for being one of the first political operatives targeted by the Justice Department for illegally coordinating campaign contributions from third parties.
He is the only one so far. Number one. Right. Well, Lance, I'm not sure if you know this, but this is not the first time Tyler has gotten into hot water. He's also like a notorious phone jammer, and he got in a lot of trouble in Tennessee for similar campaign practices. I mean, it's very clear at this point that he's an incredibly dirty operative, and that any future ambitions he might have to work on campaigns is pretty much gone. So, yeah, I think I'd give the win to Bruce for not having to deal with him anymore.
Yeah.
I think you're right, yeah. Although, if you're going to be in a business where surviving jail time and coming back and making money as a consultant is possible, politics is it.
My favorite jail time story, by the way, Lance, if I can intercede here. Yeah. Have you ever seen Tom DeLay's mugshot? Tom DeLay's mugshot looks like it's a congressional headshot. because he knew he was going in to get his picture taken. So he put on not only a suit and a tie, but he put his member pin on. And he sat there and he smiled like he was happy about it. But now, if you search for images of Tom DeLay, you'll never really be able to tell which one is the mugshot and which one is the congressional headshot. So, congratulations.
Well, that's great advice for the future. All right, guys. Before we wrap up, let's take a look at the week ahead. Starting with you, Lizzy. What are we looking for in the week ahead in Maine politics?
Hey, I'm excited to see the sort of reaction to Emily Cain announcing, but I'm also excited to keep seeing how the testimony and how the public hearings on the governor's budget unfold. A lot of folks are at the State House today. We've seen a lot of folks turning out in recent days trying to speak out against the budget, and it kind of is starting to look like things are starting to unravel. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and sort of how negotiations start to move forward.
Matt Gagnon, what do you think about this next coming week? What should we be looking for?
Well, if I can be a complete homer and self-promotional here, I'm very excited about tomorrow in Bangor. The Maine Heritage Policy Center will be bringing the governor to Bangor for a special event, a special luncheon. Should be an easy, fun opportunity to talk to the governor and talk about some of the plans he has beyond just the budget. I'm sure that will dominate a lot of his talk, but he has some things to say about energy and regulatory reform and a bunch of other things as well. It should be a pretty good event. And seeing how that goes. And, of course, as Lizzy was saying, what's happening in Augusta is very interesting to watch. I know the DHS has a pretty big week this week.
Matt, do you have a link where people can get more information about the event tomorrow?
Policy.org/LePage.
All right. All right, Ben, great. You got any plugs for anything you're doing here you want to throw up?
No plugs for my day job, that's for sure. I'm interested to see where this LePage versus City of Portland saga continues to go. I mean, they installed a political operative in DHHS for a reason, and he's doing his job, and I'm wondering what's coming next, and if the governor will sort of overstep at some point. I think he got pretty close, insinuating that poor people or people who aren't poor are seeking out homeless shelters. I think that was right up against the line, and we'll see if he's got another shoe to drop. But
you were referring to our good friend David Sorensen, were you?
I was.
All right. It's about time David got a shout out on this show. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for being on this week. Matt Gagnon, Lizzy Reinholt, Ben Grant. I'm Lance Dutson for the Advanced Team. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.